And Kevin, I want to thank you again for being with us today, because you're
You're welcome.
overcoming a few different challenges, and that, you know, it always makes things a little more interesting. But
I like to show up when I say I'm going to.
yeah, well,
one of the things I like.
Yeah, you were truly a hero to so many people in this conference, people around. I mean, in a number of different ways, right? I mean, by coming
Tim,
forward.
That is so hard to get my head around. You know, I'm just a normal guy. I was up there standing watch and radar, and this happened. That I don't feel like a hero. I feel like I have to. I feel like I have to do this. I have to make this identification because there's something real in our skies, and I don't think it's hostile in any way. I really don't. But it might be beneficial to us. It might be useful in some way, right? I mean, I missed the first part of your show, but you guys spend a lot of time talking about some of this stuff. And I think this stuff is directly related.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
well, let me go to Michael Boyd then for Q&A. Michael, would you like to go,
Michael.
sir? Okay, it looks like Michael might have just, I think Michael disappeared. He might have lost his connection. Let me go to Jeremy Reese. Jeremy?
He's muted. There he is.
Oh, yeah, there. Let me change.
Hey, good.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. I got a couple questions from the live chat. One guy keeps asking, why was PBS on the Nimitz?
What was the question?
Why was PBS on the Nimitz right after the sighting? Someone must have called the news and reported this to PBS or something, or they were on.
Well, you know, the day after I went back, so I could kind of explain the sequence of what happened here. We canceled the APEC. I was going to write an after action message to basically report to the Navy what had happened. And I didn't know if Captain Smith was going to release it or not, but I was going to try because I was a major message writer for the command. So I go back up to combat CIC and I want to review the data. I was going to take another look at the radar data and all the communications data that we always record so I could write a proper message. And the technician looks at me and he says, Senior Chief, I don't know how to tell you this, but the data is not here anymore. And I went, what do you mean the data is not here? We always record the data. And he said, some guys flew on board and they took all of our radar data and all of our communications data and took off with it. And I mean, that wasn't my situational awareness at the time, but according to them, that's exactly what happened. Apparently it happened on the carrier too. And so I'm not a bit surprised that PBS was on board the ship once word of this got out.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, that's pretty common. I mean, the aircraft carriers get a lot of film crews and stuff visiting them pretty routinely.
So that almost sounds like a Men in Black kind of thing. Did they have any? Did they say who took the data or?
Not a clue.
Oh,
they said one of them was wearing an Air Force uniform, so that's all I could get out of them. Who knows?
OSI or someone special operations or something.
Yeah.
I asked. I had the pleasure of having Theodore T.D. Barnes on my show for an interview about a month and a half ago or so, and I asked him what he thought about these encounters and what the pilots were seeing, and he seems to think that there's not. He couldn't confirm any kind of anti-gravity programs going on out at Area 51, where he was, he's pretty in touch with what goes on there at the base. But he's big on these ECCMs and spoofing technology, and he's 100% confident that everything that you guys are seeing is spoofing technology that you don't know about, that it's this advanced stuff that they've been working on.
And and I'm not going to disagree with him. He could be right about that. My mind is open. I mean, it has to be as a train. Operations specialists in the Navy, we are trained skeptics. They train us to be skeptical. Unless I can prove it on radar or prove it through ECCM, through identification in friend or foe, on message traffic, I don't know what the idea is until I do know. And as of right now, this moment in time, I don't know what these things were. However, the only caveat to that is Commander Fravor saw these things and his wingmen saw these things with their eyeballs. So if that's spoofing technology, it's some pretty damn convincing spoofing technology. I mean, if it creates a real object or even what appears to be a real object, I mean, that's some pretty fancy stuff right there. If we can do that. Wow.
Well, and then it would also create a disturbance in the water as well, right? So you'd have the Tic-Tac, you'd have a disturbance in the water, and then
Yeah,
you would
what
have,
was that?
yeah.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Medium, so if it was a projected laser or something, it wouldn't be able to go transmedium.
My personal suspicion, this happened in and again, I'm going to speculate here if I'm allowed to. November 2004, November, the gray whale migration goes from Catalina down to Guadalupe Island in this, this time of year. And that it's very possible that disturbance in the water may have been whales or dolphins coming up to check this object out. But I just don't know. I'm just guessing on that one. I strongly suspect there's some relationship to the whales though. And when Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLong came out to my house to do the film, as soon as I told him that story, Lou's like, "I'm going there," and that's how they ended up at Guadalupe Island. When I told him that's where because if I was to count up every one of these objects over the course of the 10 days, they appeared in groups of 5 to 10 at a time. There was about 100 of these objects, and the curious thing about these is every single, and you remember our ship's moving all over the water, so our radar envelope's moving with us, right? Because it's on the ship. But every one of these objects disappeared in exactly the same Latin long and exactly over Guadalupe Island. That's when they faded from my radar. So for some reason they were going to Guadalupe. Why? I don't know. I have my theories, but that's all they are.
Yeah. What,
Go ahead,
if it's okay to ask, what could I ask what your theories are? If I mean,
I think they're off-road. I do. And I think they've been here a long time. And I think the reason why we suddenly detected them is because just prior to us getting underway, our strike group had received major upgrades to our radar systems and data link systems. One of the reasons we were out there, we were testing it. And I'm speculating, but I think that new upgrade suddenly allowed us to see something that had been there a long time. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, it's interesting that you say that. And again, I'm the moderator, and I'm certainly not an expert here. But what you just said, I would say that I agree 100% with that. I felt the same way. I've talked to many different people. Everyone has different views, but again, just my own personal belief is, it does seem like this is from someplace else, and I have the feeling that they've been here for a very, very long time. And and again, and this. I'm not sure if I can express this well, but I talked to a scientist. This would go back probably about a month or so ago. We were talking about the UAP phenomena, and what she had said was, she said, you have to keep in mind when you're talking about the scales of space and time. She's like, these things don't translate well into our language, So she said it might even be better if you don't think about it in terms of space and time or alien or things like that. Just because the scales change things to such a degree. And so that's something I've been trying to keep in mind as well. But
yeah,
well, thank you, Kevin. Are you sure that it wasn't seagulls?
I'm positive it wasn't seagulls.
Awesome. All right.
It may have been seagull poop, but it wasn't the actual seagull.
All right. Thank you.
Go ahead. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jeremy. Let me see. Let me go to Phil Bouchard. Phil, welcome back, sir.
Hey, thanks, and thanks, Kevin. Hey, thanks for this great story. I was wondering, is there like a data from satellites that matches the data from the radars? Do we have like videos of the satellites and things like that, or?
To this day, I don't know where the radar data is, so it's kind of hard to answer that question. But we definitely recorded anomalous data with the pretty high-tech toys that we have available to us. I don't know if that answers your question adequately, but where the actual radar data went, someplace has it. That much I'm pretty convinced of.
The satellites, we don't have any data from the satellites.
I don't.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that I've heard rumors to that effect, but that's all I don't have any proof.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm not active anymore. My security clearance isn't active. I'm a civilian now, and they're not going to tell me, and I'm fine with that.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
they probably have good reasons.
All right. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Because I'll blab about it probably. They're smart. Yeah,
Okay.
they're pretty smart.
Thank you, Phil. So let me go to Michael Boyd next. Michael, this time I have the unmute feature set, so go for it, sir.
Hello, Kevin. So my question is, I have a couple questions. One is about Commander Fravor talked about there was one point where the Tic-Tac disappeared and then reappeared at the rendezvous point. And my question is that evidence that somehow whatever was operating the Tic-Tac could read the commander's mind, or is that evidence of the fact that perhaps the Navy was putting a fast one over on the, perhaps the Air Force was putting a fast one over on the Navy with some new tech that they had that wasn't released yet?
The reason why I don't think that's true is because of safety. Everything we do in all the militaries is safety comes first always. And I've done countless exercises in my career, and everything we do is briefed and discussed ahead of time. And for one organization to put a test on top of another organization is going to lead to safety issues. I mean, what if Commander Fravor instead had ran into this thing and it was Air Force's fault? I mean, that's why I don't. I mean, it could be true. I mean, I have an open mind, but I would be shocked. I would be shocked that they had done that. I really would be. But it is possible. It's possible. And it's also another possibility too, is these things were actually living creatures. I haven't ruled that out either. Some sort of living creature. Even an AI-based biological entity of some type.
Okay, the other hypothesis I've heard is that it goes to the relationship to the observations under the water below the Tic-Tac that you mentioned in your description earlier. It would seem more likely that there might be another species of life, intelligent life in the waters, and that would be an extraterrestrial origin, wouldn't you think?
I personally think there's some connection with the whales. I mean, but my mind's open on this totally. I mean, I've even heard people speculate that there's, they live in the channel, in the waters between the mainland and Catalina. There's something down on the bottom of the ocean down there. Because this is a real hot spot. People see them all the time down there.
Now, the last question is, I don't know if you've been following, recently there was a bunch of former military people that were retired that were talking about the connection between the UAPs and nuclear weapons facilities. Did you by any chance hear about that?
Oh, I've been following it pretty closely, actually. Again, it's not. I have no personal experience in that regard, but I have to believe those. I have to believe those former military people who say it. I mean, why would they make it up? And that's been being told since the 70s. I mean, it's a pretty consistent story on that one.
So
who knows?
The hypothesis that I'm hearing, that I've heard or I've made, is that this has to do, one of the ideas is that it's not extraterrestrial origin, but folks coming back from the future to warn us about a nuclear war that threatens to extinct humanity. And would you said in your experience with this that you didn't feel threatened in any way by what was going on, that essentially, do you think that there's a chance that these people are looking out for humanity's well-being?
I absolutely do. I absolutely, if it became proven at some point that these things were from the future, it wouldn't shock me greatly. That kind of makes sense to me. I whatever these things are, I think they're monitoring us, and I think they're going to help us. I honestly do. And I mean, if they wanted us dead, we'd been dead, gone a long time ago, right? Or to harm us anyway, they would have done it already, I have to think. So I think the opposite is actually true. I think they're beneficial to humanity. And I think that's going to be proven at some point.
Do you think they might be warning us about nuclear weapons too, is my question.
That's certainly logical, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, why else would they be turning off ICBMs? It's a pretty clear message, right? Hey, turn these, don't kill each other with these. Yeah. You're going to destroy us too. Okay. I mean, if they're actually, if they think about it, if they share the planet with us and they have bases under the ground or under the oceans, an all out thermonuclear war worldwide is going to take them out too. So maybe they've got concerns about their own spot here on the earth.
Okay, thank you for your answer to my questions. I appreciate it.
And thank you as well, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, okay, let me go to David Hughes. David?
Hi, David.
Hi. First, I want to thank you for coming in here and giving us firsthand account, which is incredible.
Thank you, David.
So I have a question. You say that you observed them over a period of days. Did you observe that it was one object that would just stay for a long period of time, or were they coming in and out?
They were on the east coast of Catalina Island. They were descending from low Earth orbit in groups of 5 to 10 at a time. And they initially went to 80,000 feet. And our ballistic missile defense watch standards were seeing this happen. And they would drop, then they would go from 80,000 and they would station down at 28,000 feet. And then they would start tracking south towards us at 100 knots. So they came in the radar envelope, Catalina Island, and they all left my radar over Guadalupe Island. Every one of the objects. And if I counted them all up together over the course of about 10 days, about 100 of these objects. Well, it wasn't just one. But we only intercepted, we only intercepted a couple of them.
So I have another question, because I've seen this video, but we only get maybe a second. And I've noticed that these objects are oscillating. Have you had a chance to see, or maybe see them oscillating over a period of time to see if there's actually a pattern or a reason for it, rather than just being random?
No, I don't have any knowledge of that at all, other than seeing the videos. And that one video from the Nimbus is where it just zorches off. Yeah. But those other two videos that the Navy's come out and said were real, they were off the East Coast, completely different group of people. There's only one video. And oh, by the way, when I, as an air intercept controller, I take the good guys and vector them into where the bad guys are. And as soon as the air crew accepts an order to intercept, they'll come back and say, flights on, tapes on. Is the commands that they use, which means this thing was being recorded for the duration of the entire intercept. It wasn't just a couple of seconds. So the rest of that video is, this was a snippet out of a much longer video. And the reason why I know that too, because I had received that exact same longer video in my email the very next morning after this happened, in my secret email on the ship. And that's how, when I was at the golf course, when I saw it break on CNN, they showed that video. And that's how I knew it was what I was looking at right away, because I'd seen that same video years and years and years ago. But the object that we encountered, there was no oscillation that I'm aware of. That happened on the East Coast.
Okay, well, thank you. Let me go to Gary Stephenson next. Gary?
Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Kevin, for the firsthand account. I wanted to go back to the shrink off, or possible shrink off radiation, the gamma ray bursts that you observed. I'm wondering if you have a feeling for the shape of the waveform that you guys captured, whether the data still exists on the SIPRNet or elsewhere, and what's the timing of that event? I think you mentioned the timing before, but I didn't quite catch it all. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and throw him under the bus now, and he's probably going to get mad at me later, but please feel free to reach out to Dr. Kevin Knuth at New York University, because he has those answers. I just don't have those answers.
Kevin Knuth. Was he on board then, or did he see the data after the event?
No, he joined our company later. Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, after this started occurring, presumably. And
yeah, he was not on board. He's a physicist at university physicist.
I see. He was off board. And do you know what sensor suite he was using, or what satellites he was using to capture the shrink or the gamma ray bursts?
No, again, he didn't capture anything. He's reviewing our data.
He just reviewed the data.
The video data.
Oh, the video data.
He wasn't on board the ship. No, he joined the team much later.
Yeah. So you mentioned the timing. Could you repeat on the timing? When did you see when did he observe these bursts? The gamma ray bursts.
Oh, that was in over the summer off SoCal when we our first expedition in the spring.
First expedition. Okay.
Yeah, in the spring.
So it could have then correlated to when these things came down to Leo, or when they first appeared, or would that be too?
No, Gary, if I could jump in. So
Sure.
Kevin has two different projects. So he was mostly talking about the 2004. But he also does UAP expeditions, and that's more recent. And they're doing expeditions out to Catalina and Guadalupe.
So this wasn't correlated with the 2004. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let me go to Carl next. Carl, go for it, sir.
Hi. Thanks, Tim. Hey, Kevin. Thanks so much for sharing your account.
My honor.
It's our honor. Thank you so much. One of the parts of the story that I'm really curious about is the behavior of the Tic-Tac and how it moves in two capacities. You talk about it dropping from high altitude to the surface of the water. You also talk about it like going down to like 28,000 feet and then going south. Is there any arc to its movement in the long-term tracking of it? Or is it sticking to vertical movement and then lateral movement?
Great question. What we observed was strictly vertical and lateral movements, no bending turns of any kind. It went from point A to point B as fast as it could without making sonic booms.
Are you familiar with type 2 superconductors? Quantum locking and I won't go into it. Never mind. The other question that I have is about the behavior of the Tic-Tac above the surface of the water and it darting around. And that's one of those characteristics that just seems wildly strange given what you've just described in terms of its ability to maneuver. And the only thought that I had is that maybe it's had difficulty stabilizing in a single location above its target, maybe because it's above the water. Did you get any sensibility of it having difficulty staying in place? Or had you seen it stationary, locked in place, and doesn't really matter, it's just going to stay right there?
I think it can do whatever the hell it wants, from what I saw. I'm not sure I really understand the question.
Well, okay, let's just focus on above the surface of the water. Did you have any sense of why it was darting around, why it was making those odd movements, independent of observation or what it was doing? Did you get any sense of that?
My guess is it was saying hi to something in the water. That's my guess. I don't think the object itself was creating the disturbance. I think when it went there, whatever is living in the water noticed it, and they had a meeting. I don't know. That's a good question, and I don't have the answer.
Thank you. I'm going to leave it to the rest of the group. I really do appreciate you sharing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Let me go to Will. Will?
Okay, is that working?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I will.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted, Gary had exactly very similar question to me. So I just want to reinforce what Gary had asked you. I understand that you have there's two different parts to this. One is the earlier one, and then the other one is with Dr. Knuth at a later time. So I didn't quite get if the gamma ray burst came, he was able to detect that from the image of
No,
the
no. I'm not sure why this is so confusing. In 2004, we detected these things on radar, and that's when the event happened. Years later, we went back out to SoCal. This year,
Right.
This is a long time later, years later, right? And that's when we saw the gamma ray. There was no hint of gamma rays back in 2004.
So I think what Gary was also asking was, were you able to correlate the burst with an actual object, or was it just burst?
That's being worked on right now as we speak. I don't have the answer. Dr. Kevin Knuth and Matthew Zydalgas are the ones to ask that question to.
Do you know what the frequency range or the spectrum of the burst was?
What was that?
Do you know the spectral range for the burst?
No, I don't. I do not.
Do you think he would know that?
Of course they do. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually, Will, that's something that we can follow up with, because we know, actually Kevin Knuth has spoken on APEC before, and so has Matthew Zydalgas, so we can ask both of them. But okay, let me go back to Jeremy Reese next, and we'll probably do maybe another 10 minutes or so, Kevin, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, well, and again,
I'm actually feeling a lot better. So.
Hey, Kevin, I have a couple more questions from the live chat, and I just want to ask my audience if my audio is lowered now. I was a little bit louder than the other guests before. When you say they descended from low Earth orbit, was that the maximum radar detection height, or could they have come from further out than that?
I gotta be careful I don't say anything that's classified. It's possible they came further out from that. Leave it that way. In fact, that's what I think. I think they came from space. I really do. I don't think they're Russian. I don't think they're Chinese. I don't think they're Guatemalan. They're not Australian. They're not Canadian. These things came from somewhere else, in my opinion. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll accept it. It's just my gut instinct.
I don't know if I want to add that next question. Here's the next one. Do you know if some crew members of the Hawkeye had to sign an NDA, or is that just a rumor?
I personally know one of the crew members that was on the flight. He's a member of our company, and he swears that he had to sign an NDA. So I have to believe him. It's not my experience. I never signed an NDA in regard to this 2004 event, but the people had possession of the data claim they had to sign NDAs. So we all have to be real careful what we say,
right?
In terms of NDAs and classifications.
Yep. Just like TD Barnes didn't share any specifics, he just said he thinks it's ours and it's some kind of spoofing technology. So.
Could be. My mind is open on that.
Now,
although if that's true, it's a pretty good spoofer, because I mean, you got to remember, you got a human eyeball see these things.
I don't think they're all spoofing. I don't think it explains. They might explain a couple cases, but I don't know if it necessarily describes all of them.
I don't either. I don't either. I'm with you on that one. The East Coast events, and these are just the ones that we know about. It's entirely possible this has happened again and again and again, and no one knows. Hasn't been made public.
Now, Kevin, if I could jump in really quick, one of the things I think that's just kind of in the breaking news aspect of things is it sounds like the government may be opening up a permanent UFO investigation office of some kind, right? That's on one of the bills. Are you aware of that? Have Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard the same thing. I don't have any details on it. No one's reached out to me. But I've heard the same thing. It's part of the funding bill this year, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and again, even though you don't like to accept it, I think this part of this goes to the hero part, right? Is that I think this has been an issue that's been with us as a culture for like going on a century at this point. And, and it's finally being taken seriously. And that's in large part to, yourself and Commander Fravor and the people who were involved in these incidents. So
it is true. I can't deny that. And I don't, from my perspective, I didn't have a choice but to back up what Commander Fravor said. There was no way I was going to sit on my hands and let that fine human being twist in the wind by himself. There was no way I was going to do that. So that's how we all came together to support him and his air crew.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
now.
Absolutely.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Let me go back to Michael Boyd, and again, we're starting to run low on time, but Michael, go for it, sir.
Okay, hey Kevin. So I'm curious about you said the radar data was basically taken because of classified, but did you actually see the data before they and are you allowed to talk about what you saw?
I was in shock when I went to command. I was going to write my message, route it up the chain of command, and see if Captain Smith would release. I was doing an after action report. And the technician says, sir, I don't know how to tell you this, but the data's missing. But I did save this one little section. And it was a cooperative engagement capability system. And what that does is it fuses all of our different data, radars and everything into one picture. I saw this object go from 28,000 feet down to the surface of the water in 0.78 seconds. That's what was recorded.
Was that
in less than a second?
Did that integrate the FLIR data, the IR data that was being collected too?
That yeah, it had all of our sensor data infused in it.
And you saw that data?
I saw it. It was primarily radar data. It basically it was recording what I'd seen the day before, exactly what I saw the day before. This object went from 28,000 feet down to the surface in less than a second. No sonic booms.
So we've seen the IR infrared data, but we haven't seen any of the radar data.
Well, other than that several seconds gun camera video, but that's not radar data. That was visual camera system.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's still material out there waiting to, presumably, waiting for the public to see it. Maybe if this UFO office, maybe they'll release it at some point. But
maybe it will.
My other question is jamming. I saw there was so I used to work I worked for Hughes Aircraft, Santa Barbara Research Center, making infrared detectors that were used in FLIR 1. And I saw what looked like there was some kind of jamming going on, where there would be like a flash and I could see the fan out of the detector would show up in the image. And so I'm curious, was there any reported instances of jamming by the Tic-Tac?
On board the Princeton, our EW electronic warfare watch station did report one case of jamming at one time during the incident. Yes, I'm being jammed.
Thank you. That's my questions. Again, I appreciate your answers.
Yeah. Well, and thank
welcome.
you as well, Michael. And that was an excellent
thanks,
question.
Mike.
Okay, let me go back to Will really quickly, and then Harold, and I think we're running again low on time. So,
man, time flies, doesn't it, when you do these?
Well, again, I can't thank you enough for joining us. So let me go back to Will.
And hey, before I forget, it doesn't have to be the last time. God willing, we can do this again.
Yeah, no, we would love to have you back. Yeah, absolutely love to. Well, I'll follow up with you after the fact, and
okay.
Will, would you like to go again, sir?
Yeah, sure. So Kevin, also I'm ex-military as well. but I also still work in classified programs. One of the things that's been confusing me that a lot of that, you know, several speakers have said, such as you, that some people in the military, active duty, right? They're all active duty, is that right?
Tim, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat it? He's
Oh,
coming in
I'm
broken.
sorry. Will was asking about, I think, Will, could you go again? You were asking about active duty? If these
Yeah,
people are,
so these people that signed the NDA, they're active duty, is that right?
Oh, yeah, they're active duty.
Okay,
They were at the time, yeah.
sure.
No
And
longer, but
I work in classified programs off and on, and also former Marine. However, I've never had to sign an NDA for any of the programs I've worked in. So I wonder, how is it that active duty people who already have clearance have to sign an NDA? Many people have said this, but I've never understood that, because even when I was doing crypto, I never had to have an NDA.
okay. They
So,
claim they did, so I don't know what to tell you.
yeah, well, no, I was just kind of curious if you,
Yeah.
because you're an officer, so you would have known.
No, I was enlisted. I was a senior chief. I
Oh,
was
you're senior chief.
from the
I'm
enlisted
sorry.
ranks, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I was just thinking that because of your level, you know, you might know about
Okay.
this NDA thing, because I find it kind of strange.
yeah.
The whole thing is strange for sure. Yep.
Hmm.
That I will say about it.
Yeah, anyway, that was my question for
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
In your sensor fusion data, did you notice anything, anything else that may be relevant to your story?
We have a system on the ship called identification friend or foe, IFF for short. And that's one of our tools for IDing stuff, because aircraft has transponder, and based on the number that's just can make an identification. These objects weren't broadcasting any IFF that we detected. So there was no IFF on these things, no identification friend or foe. Radar data, definitely radar. And I have to say, we had the highest radar track quality attainable the entire time we were tracking these things. It's not like they were spotty. They were very solid tracks.
And I was curious, because I don't know about the optics of the aircraft that took the photo that you know, the famous video, right? Did that have hyperspectral capability or not?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I do not know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
thank you very much.
Thanks, Will.
You're
Let me
very
go.
welcome.
So let me go to Harold, and I think we're just about out of time after that.
Yes, I have a question. Referring to Dr. Nuth, in an early presentation, he made a very good case that this UAP operated proportion with magnetic fields. Now, from all the data available from the pilots and your data on the radar, does all the data available allowed to make an educated interpolation and interpolate what kind of intensity of magnetic field may be the propulsion system for the UAP?
Tim, I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat it for me?
You know,
I have a bad connection, or maybe if Tim heard
the
it.
UAP operate with magnetic field, the propulsion system. Now, does the data that you have in the radar and the pilot allow to make an educated guess about the intensity of the magnetic field that the UAP is producing?
I don't believe we had that capability. No.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Representation,
Now,
good information. Thank you.
Now, when UAP expeditions, we have magnetometers that we took out with us on our last expedition, and we detected stuff.
But
all of our devices detected stuff.
Okay, from
gravitometers,
the data
magnetometers.
From the radar, you cannot, for example, work out with education to make an educated guess by translating the information of the intensity, the radar, the signal, how much magnetic field will produce that signal on your radar or in the pilot's radar in the airplane?
Again, I didn't understand the question.
Oh, yeah. Well, Harold, I think
Thank you.
what he'd already said was, I think what he already said was that the level of data just wasn't there for that, unfortunately, to make
Okay.
predictive guesses. But okay, well, I think we're just out of time for right now. So Kevin, thank you again. I know that you
You're
had to
very
overcome
welcome.
several challenges to be with us today. I would love to have you back in the future. I'll follow up with you on that. But
Okay.
so let me do this though. Before you go, let me put it on gallery view, and everyone, please give Mr. Kevin Day an enormous hand.
Thank you, guys.
And Kevin, I truly meant what I said. I mean, yourself and Commander Fravor and everything that you guys are doing, you guys are true American heroes. And I know it has not been easy as well. There's a lot of public stigma, a lot of uncertainty.
There's one thing I want to say before we sign off. Jacques Vallée and Eric Davis published a paper called, and I don't remember the exact title, but basically it's human post effects from encounters with these objects. And I want people listening to know that if you see one of these things and you start to change, and everyone around you is wondering what's going on with Kevin. Well, there is probably a reason why you're changing. Some people get abilities they never had before, myself included, just out of the blue. And encounters with these objects has effects on humans. And so if you're one of those people that happen to see one, just know in advance you're probably going to get changed by it.
Okay.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. Nope.
Kevin, thank you again. I sincerely appreciate your time
Thank
today.
you, guys. Over and out.
Thanks again.